And then those fusion guys, too, man, I love. Many of them, there's no one like Scott Gambale. I love Gambale.
Do you have some things like that which I see in Scott's mentality? That, well, has this blues cradle, has the passion for Jeff Beck. And then, man, when you play fusion, do you feel, man, that not necessarily, this here we heard so much from Scott, but it's so much listening. It's actually different from what Scott listened to, right?
Yeah, who am I, right? Scott is a genius. I'm a rocker, right? A rocker with a big ego. Scott is brilliant, right? But I definitely love Scott, especially his solos, right? I think tribal tech is cool, but sometimes I find it a bit indigestible, right? Now his solo albums are genius, right?
Did you see the last two, man, that he did? He went back to a more fusion wave. He moved away a bit from that more blues style.
He did 2-3 blues albums, right? He even won a Grammy and all that, right? Here we have Dog Party.
Here there's also vocals and everything, right? His last two albums were completely instrumental. It was Vibe Station, right? You know, Serginho.
There's one of them that has a song I play all the time, which is Stratus, right? He re-recorded Stratus on one of those albums. And I think with Danny Chambers on drums, if I'm not mistaken. Is it?
Danny Chambers.
Yeah, on one of those more recent albums, I think it's him, Danny Chambers, and the bassist. I don't remember who it is. Danny Chambers is awesome, right? Wow.
That's a drummer, right? He filled a space in the 90s where everyone wanted to play like him, right?
And two guys, man, who are a complete and absolute reference for me are Eric Johnson and Steve Morse. I don't know how to categorize these guys, right? Let's maybe call it fusion, but they have absolutely nothing to do with Scott or Alan or Gambale, right? They are guys I really like because they have a very, very particular style, and I think that's really cool in an artist, right? When they have a language that you listen to 4 bars and say, that's him. How long does it take for you to realize it's Eric Johnson playing just one note, right? Or Steve Morse. And Steve Morse has this side of him with a lot of influence from that wave they call...
What's the name, man?
Bluegrass, country. He's also into Baroque music.
What's the name of that band he had? Drix?
Dixie Dregs.
Exactly.
That band was fantastic. That's the Steve Morse I like from Dixie Dregs. I have all the albums. And I like his solo career, too, a bit after the Dregs took a break. He came out with his first solo albums. And obviously, I like him in Deep Purple, but in Deep Purple, it's cool because it's Deep Purple. Steve Morse, but older. The Steve Morse in Dixie Dregs, that's the real Steve Morse.
Letting loose there, right? Doing what he wants.
And a unique style, too, right? What band sounds like Dixie Dregs?
And his way of playing, too, right? His right hand is very distinctive, isn't it? Do you remember how he... What is the positioning again?
No, that he holds the pick with 3 fingers. These fingers here control the tone, the volume. Right, man? He plays arpeggios with alternate picking at the speed of light, right? He has a song called Too Many Notes.
I remember that song.
God forbid. There was a video at the time, right, man? When I saw him playing that intro with those arpeggios at that BPM with the alternating stick, I said, oh, no, it won't work, man. For God's sake.
On his guitar.
I'm going to sell this old guitar of mine and open a pizzeria, bro.
With that blue and black Music Man guitar of his, full of buttons, remember that?
Yes, the mids. He uses the mids too, right?
4 pickups, right?
Morse, man, I think he's a super composer, dude. The stuff from his solo albums, like, man, there are some really beautiful things. Man.
He was very popular in the 90s, doing video lessons too, right, man?
Yes, yes.
I think the Too Many Notes was in the video lesson, wasn't it?
For almost a decade, man, he was winning those things from Guitar Player, those every year, right? Every year. The best overally, all styles. I mean, it's not for just anyone, right? Steve Morse is totally above average, right? I had the privilege of seeing some of his shows. At the time I was in New York, man, and seeing him in person like that, it's tear-jerking. I actually cried, to be honest. He played some songs that I liked and that I never imagined I would see him play live. I was in a bar there having my jack, and watching him, I said, oh, It's not possible. Alone,
Were you alone?
I was with Andre Ivan, right?
Wow.
It was at the time when we were trying our luck there.
It was during that time, so you already had access to him.
And he was quite young, right? He was at his peak, right? Playing like crazy. He hadn't joined Deep Purple yet.
But after Deep Purple, he took a break from his solo career, I believe, right?
Man, he's playing, I see some of his stuff. On the internet, he's playing some things with the Drags. There's a show he's doing where one part is with the Drags, and another part is his solo album.
New stuff, new album?
He must have something new. He never stops writing. But the show is 90% old stuff, right? There must be one or two new things. And he has a serious problem with his hand, right? Walking in carpal tunnel, right? That thing, carpal tunnel syndrome. And he couldn't pick anymore, right? So much so that he doesn't pick like that anymore. He can't do it. Now he had to relearn. Look at Carlos's effort. Almost 70 years old, relearning how to pick, man. Now he's closing his hand in the traditional way like this and moving his wrist. He never picked like that. He used to pick like this, right?
But then, man, did he lose some of that speed he had?
Yes, he said it was unbearable pain, right? It's like taking a nail and driving it into your wrist, right? Imagine that subtle movement he used to make. Subtle, like a herd of hippos falling down the stairs, right? For God's sake, I don't know how he alternated the pick like that. He was the only guy who picked that way. While also controlling the knobs, it was like his hand was an octopus.
Yeah, man. But I didn't know he had developed this problem.
Yes, it's a very serious problem. And it seems that I think he didn't want to have surgery because there was no guarantee he could lose the movement of his hand.
Well, it's really better to adapt.
But he's getting better, thank God. I don't know. He must have found some treatment. And man, I saw recently he relearned how to pick, and he's picking well. I mean, what willpower? Right, man. I like to change my picking technique because sometimes it bothers me, you know. The way I pick tires me out for doing some things. I can't do it, man. I try to hold it like this and pick, dude. It's really good on the same string. When I change strings, I pick the G string, and I think I'm picking the G string. But I'm picking the B string, right? I fret the B string and pick the G string.
It's very difficult to change after a certain age because you need to have muscle memory, right? Muscle memory, exactly. You kind of have to be forced to do it. Like him, right?
Yes, only because of a health issue, right?
Yeah, I also have a problem with my finger here, man. I'm having to rethink a lot of things I do. Man, it's a pain because every time you want to do it the way you've always done. But I, for example, in my case, I have no choice. I have to change. Mike Stern is the same way, right, man? Did you see how he is Mike Stern? No, he had an accident with his hand. Did you hear about it or not? Left hand or right hand? Right hand. Man, it ruined his hand. And he only plays, if you see, man, he attaches the pick to his hand so it doesn't fall. But he had to relearn. He's playing, he's doing shows, but it's not the same anymore.
I'm impressed. There are some guys, man, who have the ability to switch overnight and start rocking it. Mozart Mello, man. I've seen Mozart Mello picking in 20 different ways with 20 different types of picks to the point where he said, hey, buddy, now I'm picking with my thumb. I'm not using a pick anymore. And he picked just the same, man. Right. In other words, these guys, they have the ability to change. No, I'm going to change. Give him a week and he's already changed. I can't do it, man. I'd like to pick like this with a closed hand like Paul Gilbert or Aldi Meola. I can't do it, man.
I can't do it. But you also, it's because I noticed you have a very particular way of picking.
Yes, it's a habit, right? I was self-taught and started picking like this without guidance. It was the way I could do it.
It doesn't cause you any pain.
No. Sometimes it gives me problems, a lot of problems. With the cuticle, it gets inflamed. Because I move a lot here, it starts to rub a lot. And sometimes when the cuticle gets inflamed, I can't hold the pick. It's a torment, especially for playing metal rhythm guitar, you know. It's a very repetitive movement. And we tend to play hard with emotion, right? And then, man, when you notice the cuticles are all inflamed.
Sometimes, does it get to the point where you have to take a break?
Yes.
For a week?
Yeah, about 2 days, said, right?
I understand.
Apply some ointments on the cuticles.
The wife takes care of it.
She takes care of it. She stops, puts the finger there, grabs an artery, and does it. Laughter, laughter.
I know she takes care of it.
Yes, she does. She does. She's an easygoing wife, but she's amazing. Great partner, great partner.
How long have you been married?
For 20 years, the age of my daughter.
Congratulations. Same as me too, 20 years married. 20 years, right?
Do you have children too? Do you have children, Matthias?
I have 3, man.
3, man. You went far, right? You're a serious man, right, dude? You're a serious guy. I have one who's 20.
One who's 20.
Yes.
So it was like pregnant, then married.
Actually, she got pregnant before we got married, right? And we only actually got married when my daughter was about 5 years old.
Really?
Yeah. Then we got married in the church. Not in the church. We had a buffet and all that. Registry office, went there and signed the papers. We did the registry office and buffet. There was no church, but my little girl sang. She sings well, right, Julia? And she sang since she was little, and she sang there for the bride and groom to enter. It was really crazy.
Wow, that's cool. Because people, you know, you're a rocker, long-haired, they think you won't get married. Won't be able to have a family.
Yeah, right. Getting married and having a family, that's... For me, it's very important, right, Carlos? The basic principles of being human, right? If every human being decides not to marry and not to have a family, it's very simple. We go extinct, right? So the most natural thing for a human being is to start a family. Otherwise, the species ends, right? Or am I wrong? You're absolutely right.